didn't see there, Seigo with another memoir in history. They'll be looking at two stories today and see how they answer the question, what motivates change, and how can one determine if a cause is worth fighting for. The first is about a man named Macbeth living in a Shakespearean era of Scotland, and how the opportunity of him becoming king changes his personality. The next story is about a girl named Marjane Satrapi, who lives in the 1970s in Iran during the Iranian Revolution. As you will see later on, she also changes as the war becomes more dreadful. Then we will delve into our feature article of How Power Corrupts and a song by your favorite artist, Tupac. So this is like a really major turning point in Macbeth, as Macbeth's insanity and power hungriness drives him to order Banquo's death, as he sees Banquo's ambition as a threat and his lineage as a threat as well. This really shows how the turning point Macbeth went from being unconfident and undecisive and using Lady Macbeth's help to being very decisive and yet very power hungry and very insane. Macbeth the chef, what is up, my dude?
I need you to kill Banquo.
With this?
Yes.
Alright, right on, man. Hey, Banks!
Hey, what?
Judgment Day!
Oh!
What a very sad and tragic story about Macbeth. It really shows how really his change was motivated by his power hungriness, and it's changed him to become very insane. Very sad for Macbeth. Now we'll move on to a girl named Marjane Satrapi, who's in the city Persepolis. Alright, so this scene is a reenactment of when Marjane's neighbor's house has been bombed. This act is described by a quote on page 140, and Marjane states, "I didn't want to look up. I looked at my trembling legs. I couldn't go forward, like in a nightmare." Marjane explains how she truly feels devastated by these bombings. This is also a turning point in the story, as Marjane begins to lose her innocence.
Explosion!
Oh my god, Mom, what happened? What happened?
I don't know, the whole place blew up!
Oh my god, what are we gonna do? I'm so scared. What a very tragic yet inspirational story for Marjane. While she may lose her neighbors in the bombings and her childhood innocence, she also gains a new sense of maturity and rationalization, as she personally now is affected by the horrors of the revolution. She now has lost many of her fears that she once obtained when she was younger and began to realize the implications of the war. Now let's trek into the feature article of the day of How Power Corrupts by Jonah Leher. So, one key phrase that sticks out in the beginning of the story is when the author exclaims, "Those in positions of power can't help but help themselves to the help," thus revealing how power can inflict someone to become obsessed with power, just wanting more and more power, almost like an addiction, which in hand leads to the blinding of one's morals. Later in the article, a study from Northwestern reveals how people who are in a higher position of power often do more wrong and bad things than someone in a lower position of power, which is resulting them into justifying all their wrongdoings and never taking blame for them. Then at the end of the story, the author asks a key question, which states, "We deserve what we want, and how dare they resist? Don't they know who we are?" The author added this question to describe how power changes people by blinding them from other people and believe they have the right to act prestigious and will do anything for more power. That was a very good antidote to describe how power blurs one's morality and also creates a more ruthless personality. Now it's time to move on to our final portion of our segment, the song. The song we'll be focusing on today is the song Changes by Tupac. This song describes how the change people see happening in the world is merely a mirage, as there are still major social problems. He describes how in America there is still racism from police force and high amounts of poverty, leading to gun violence and drug dealing to make money and for protection. Tupac starts the song pessimistic about life and describes the crime and injustice that he's felt and experienced. Then he later presents a solution that people of all races and socioeconomic classes are not much different from each other, so there's no reason for no peace. At the end, he circles back to the start, that there can't be change. His belief that only tragedy can provoke change, and that if someone is personally affected by it, they will fight for it, which is seen through these two separate expressions from the lyrics.
I see no changes, all I see is racist faces. Misplaced hate makes disgrace to racists. We I wonder what it takes to make this one better place. Let's erase the wasted. Take the evil out the people, they'll be acting right. And still I see no changes. Can a brother get a little peace? It's war on the streets and a war in the Middle East.
These lyrics describe the racism that Tupac wants to change and how the violence in the world triggers him to want peace. Now I'll conclude this segment with one giant generalization. In the entirety of all these pieces, they create a common theme of that change is motivated by tragedy, which leads people to have the fight for peace and personal gains. And Macbeth, in the article How Power Corrupts, both describe how a tragedy such as manipulating or hurting someone to gain power creates a sense of power hungriness in a person. Tragedy is also seen in Persepolis and changes, which is caused by the violence in their communities, which causes them to advocate for their societies. This concludes our episode today. Until later, this has been a memoir on history.